Greetings, I am Pillar Nexus, the Ancient Gladiator, today with more Pillar Loves Tabletop games. And today, bringing probably the last board game I'm ever going to cover um, for the foreseeable future, Hegemony. Lead your class to victory. In this game, you will be playing as one of four major classes: the state, the capitalists, the middle class, and the working class. Ultimately, you're trying to get victory points. To that end, the setup of the game, the policies will start here. The private sector will start out with these four: the clinic, the college, shopping mall, supermarket. Middle class business will be doctor's office and convenience store. Public sector, just the first row will be open. The state will have 120 money to work with. Capitalists will have 120 money to work with. Middle class has 40 to work with, and working class has 30. There will be one business deal out there for the capitalists and one export card. And import costs are in the middle of the road. So how the game will go is we'll move the round marker. Anyone that's got a loan will have to pay interest on it. 5. If they can't pay the interest, then they're going to have to take out another loan. The middle class will drop 2 prosperity spaces. So if they're up here, they'll drop down to here. The working class will drop a single prosperity space. So if they're from here, then they go down to here. Action cards, reveal events. There will be 2 events for the state to deal with, and they have until the end of the round to do it. If they don't, they will lose legitimacy, which hurts their cause. But taking care of them gets some points and potential legitimacy. They will also draw the political agenda card. This is what they want to try to get the politics to look like when the round is over. Yeah, 3C is not happening, 5A is not happening either. Not without some radical action-wise. And then players will draw new action cards. At the start of the game, you will have 7 action cards, and you will have a chance to play 5 of them before the round is over. And then at the start of the new round, you'll hold on to your previous 2 and then draw 5 new ones. The new business deals. So if foreign trade is down to here, then import costs are cheap, and there will be 2 business deals. At this point, there's only 1, and at this point, there's 0. It's entirely possible for the policies to change in the middle of the round. The business deals stay until the end of the round, but the cost from doing the business deal will be increased much further. And I believe the state gets the tariffs off of that. New workers and addressed population. So depending on immigration, there'll be a number of additional workers. Working class are represented by little hard hat people, and middle class are represented by suits. Working class will always get 2 unskilled workers. Middle class will get 1 of the player's choice with skill and 1 unskilled. And then depending on the immigration rate, we'll draw an extra card for each. Separate cards are drawn, so like the middle class will get one skilled in the green. Working class will get one unskilled. Let's go to the bottom. And adjust population. So one of the things you'll have to keep track of if you're in the middle class or working class is number of people. It gets harder to feed people the more you have, and it's harder to use the healthcare boost, the education boost, luxury, prosperity as well. And I'm losing everything. Great. Okay, once everything is set up for the round, we go to the action phase, starting with the working class. So, what you'll do is you will look at your hand of cards, and you'll pick one of them. If it has requirements, those will have to be fulfilled. So, this requires labor market to be at 2B or 2C to play supplemental income program. It also provides legitimacy to the state for every 10 people you have. But before that, you have the option to do free actions. One free action before or after you play the card. You also have the option to not use the card for its effect and instead do a basic action, which will be listed on your little player aid sheet. But regardless of what you do, you will discard the card and the play will pass to the next player. Player order is working class, middle class, capitalist, state. And it will go around 5 times, and then once everyone's done their action phase, they'll go to production. There's little nuances for each of the classes to keep in mind. Like with the working class, you can assign workers, provided you have spaces to put all of them together. They can also go work for middle class businesses and be paid wages while assisting in the production there. If you ever have enough workers working in a single industry and you have the skilled worker of that type, you can potentially have a trade union leader, and that gets you influence and extra victory points. As long as you have 4 or more people working in that industry and you have the skilled leader to do it. You can also buy goods and services from the other players, like the middle class or the capitalists will have their stuff. Importing is also an option. Public services from the state are also an option. Depending on where these are, it's entirely possible to get education or healthcare for free. But that just gives the state more power. It's also possible to pressure others as well by using strike tokens if wages are not high enough, or demonstrations if you've got so many unemployed people and there's like no openings, to pressure people to open more businesses for you. And if those fail, you can potentially get influence. One of the things you can do with all the factions is propose a bill. So, reduce taxes. You can only place it like right next to it, and only if no one else is proposing a bill for the same subject. And you cannot place it like on the other side. It has to be adjacent. You're limited to 3 proposals per round. But anyway, back to the working class. Their free actions include using healthcare equal to population to get another unskilled worker for more prosperity and some victory points. Education to upgrade an unskilled worker to a skilled worker and get prosperity. Spending luxury equal to your population to get prosperity. Swapping workers. Let's say you upgraded one of your how'd you end up in there? Yeah, let's say you had a upgraded worker in an unskilled position. You could swap out the unskilled, swap out the skilled with the unskilled. That way, they're free to go do skilled work somewhere else, like the clinic. Yeah. There's received benefits. Sometimes the state leaves benefits for other classes. And then there's paying off the loan. It's $50 to pay off the loan. Yeah. The middle class can also assign workers and propose bills and apply political pressure. So the way the politics thing works in this game is there'll be these cubes that you add into the bag of your color, and then like during the votes, people will decide beforehand whether they're going to vote for it or against changing it. And then 5 cubes get pulled, and they'll go to like whichever side was supporting the change or against it. And then players will have a chance to use influence cubes to secretly swing the vote. But yeah, everyone can add 3 cubes except the state. The state works in its own way. But they can also build companies. So the middle class and the capitalists have access to their own special companies. They cost this much to open them, and this is what it's required to run them for middle class. The working class is optional, but if they do work there, they'll provide extra stuff, but at the cost of having to be paid wages. And there's a limit to how much they can put into the private sector. Middle class can add another 6 businesses. The private sector can add another 8. Some of the capitalist businesses can be improved by machinery, or can only be run with machinery. But yeah, continuing on with the middle class, they can sell their goods to the foreign market. There's an export card, and it'll have like sell this many for this much money. If you have the like 3 plus 6 is 9, if you have 9 food, you could do both of these and get a ton of money out of it. Yeah. They can also buy goods and services from the capitalists, imports, and public services from the state. Uh, they can also do extra shift. Choose a company with non-committed workers of yours. They're committed if they're lying down. Perform a production action and commit all workers in a company. So you'll produce if there was a working class person there, they have to be paid. But then you get that stuff you might need. They also follow the working class of use healthcare to get more people, use education to improve workers, use luxury to make people happier. There's also adjusting prices as a free action. The capitalists will get to do the same thing as well. So whenever people buy stuff from the capitalists or the middle class, they have to pay whatever's down here. When there's a ton of money floating around, it's probably worth raising your prices a bit. If there's not so much money floating around, you might want to make things cheaper. Especially if you're competing. If you're competing with a state, you might want to reduce prices to encourage people to maybe support you instead of the state. But that's up to you, your strategy. You can also do the swap workers thing like the working class. Receive benefits and pay off loans. What the capitalists can do, they can build companies, they can propose bills, they can sell companies. Oh yeah, that's the other thing I forgot to mention about the middle class as well. But anyway, selling companies, you get that much money. Any workers that are on there are now unemployed. But yeah. They can also sell to the foreign market. Business deals. Pay the amount listed, potentially with a little bit extra depending on what the foreign trade status is, and get that much. $10 for goods. For $40, or $50 as it is right now. Or if a policy shift in the middle of the turn makes it happen, $60. And then the card's discarded. Any cards, whenever the round changes, any old business deals are lost. But they're primarily for buying luxuries and food. Anyway. They can apply political pressure like the other classes. They also have a special thing where they can spend $30 and get 3 influence tokens, just straight up. Power is called lobby. Their free actions, they can adjust prices, adjust wages. Middle class can also adjust wages. Wages are tied to the labor market. The absolute minimum wage is based on this. So if the labor market is at 2C, then you can go absolute minimum. And then risk the working class going on strike. Yeah. But if it's like maxed out, then you're going to be paying big time. While the workers are still standing, they are not committed, so they can potentially walk away or go on strike. You can give a bonus of 5 to the player controlling the workers in the company and commit them to producing their. If you raise wages at a company, that also automatically commits them. You can buy storage units for 20, and it'll increase a specific resource. So so you've got more room for education, healthcare, luxury, a little bit more room for food. The middle class can also get these, but only through cards. They can also receive benefits and pay off loans. One of the special things the capitalists have going for them is the free trade zone. Whenever they buy stuff from the business deal, they can avoid having to pay the tariffs to the state by putting them here. But if they do that, then they can only sell these to the foreign market. So, let's say we went through the business deal of buying 10 luxury goods or 50 because of the trade thing. Actually, it would be 40 because we put it on the free trade. And we can sell those 10 for 70. Yay, capitalism. Alright. And that's basically what the capitalists are able to do. And finally, there's the state. Like the other classes, they can propose a bill, but they have no cubes to put into the bag for that. Something I forgot to mention with proposing a bill. Let's say you propose, say, foreign trade. You have the option to burn one influence and call for an immediate vote. If it's absolutely critical for you to pull off this round, you might just do it. They can sell any food and luxuries that they would have to the foreign market. Based on export. They cannot sell the public services though. They can also they can spend 2 influence cubes of their own, not in the public services, of their own, to a player, and get 1 legitimacy. So it's kind of far away, so let's just bring it over. There's the state's legitimacy track. As it goes further up, they can get more access to more influence and get points as well. Legitimacy means they're doing the job that people are expecting them to do, and so people trust them. They can get 10 money from each other player, and then they choose. They get -1 legitimacy in 2 of the classes that are lowest, and then finally they can campaign. Move 3 media influence from the main board to the player board. Their free actions are to adjust the wages of the public sector and pay off their loans. The state has a limit to how many loans it can have. It can have 1 outstanding loan at this point, 1A and 1B. If it has any more than that, and they don't deal with it before the IMF check happens, they're at risk. Then bad things will happen. So that's basically the actions, how those will work out. What each faction is trying to do score-wise. Any faction that passes a bill gets 3. Anyone who supports them passing that bill gets 1. Anyone claiming state benefits gets a victory point for the state. People buying public service, healthcare, and education will either get the state a victory point or gain legitimacy for the state if it's free. The state will gain points for the lowest 2 legitimacy scores combined, and then all 3 scores will get reduced. And then for every policy that matches their card, we'll get them a point. But then they'll have to discard it for a new one in the following turn. The capitalists score based on, again, proposing passing bills. What they're trying to do is turn their revenue into capital, and their capital, the higher the threshold they cross, the more points they'll get for doing so. The middle class is trying to, again, pass bills, their prosperity, and every time they sell to the foreign market. And then the working class is also passing bills and building up their prosperity. Healthcare, education, luxuries, and their trade unions. Okay. Anything else? Oh yeah, the middle class also scores a bonus prosperity if it's lower than their fully operational companies. Okay. But before we get to the scoring phase, we need to actually produce stuff. So, but that's just trying to keep you on track for what you're trying to accomplish, ultimately. But everyone will have their action phase, and they'll go to production phase. So, like, for example, for the starting with the state, their public sector businesses will create stuff. And then capitalists will make their stuff. Middle class will make their stuff. If the working class has their cooperative farms built, those will produce food for them. Where you have an operational business with workers, you're going to have to pay wages. The state will have to come out of the treasury. The capitalists will have to come out of their revenue. Middle class will come out of their income. You'll have to pay your people. If you ever need to pay money and you can't, you will have to take a loan. You can never take a loan simply just for wanting to buy stuff. You have to actually be in that position to need the loan. Then you'll have to cover your needs. As part of production, the limit is there are limits to what you can store. It's usually 8 food and either 8 or 12 for the capitalists. Public services is based on their maximum production plus 6. So 12, 12, and 10 for the start of the game. Once all that's done, you'll have to cover your needs, with the middle class and the working class paying food for your population. And then we check for the International Monetary Fund. The state will need to deal with their loans. If they have too many loans outstanding, what will happen with the IMF? Any proposed bills are discarded, and players will get an influence cube for everything that they lost proposing. The new fiscal policy, the whole political setup right here is now limited public sector, low wages, high taxes, lower cost healthcare, expensive ass education, one foreign trade, one immigration. And then any businesses that closed from the fiscal policy will be considered sold or restoring the state's treasury. When this moves up, public sector businesses will open up and the state will have to pay costs to open them up. If it goes down, then they sell them and get the money. Yeah. When paying taxes, as part of this turn as well, whatever this was at, these were at before the IMF intervened, will be still used for figuring out taxes. So after that's been checked, oh yeah. No. Then after the changes that are applied for the IMF, the state is unable to pay. It'll just discard the remaining loans, and it's just broke. And then the state loses half legitimacy. Yeah. This is all happening before scoring, so things are just really bad. But then there'll be taxes. The capitalists are going to have to pay employment tax based on the tax multiplier times the number of businesses. So the way the tax multiplier is figured out, you look at the taxation. If it's here, then it's 3, it's 2, it's 1. Depending on where it's at, the modifiers are changed as follows. It's here, then this is 2, this is 4, this is another 2, this is another 4. So 3 plus 4 and 4 is 11, maxed out. If it's here, then it's a base of 2, and then they're just considered times 1. So 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then finally, if it's just there, then it's 1 regardless of wherever those are. But yeah, the capitalists will figure that out for their businesses, and the middle class will figure that out for their businesses as well. And then corporate tax goes off of their revenue. Whatever money's in their revenue, so let's say out of like the 120. So we look at the taxation and figure it out based on that. So the 100 to 199 and 3C makes it 20. So it'll come out of their revenue before it goes over to capital. And then there'll be income tax for the middle class and the working class. For the working class, it'll be based on their population and where the labor market and taxation are. If the labor market is at 2A, you want to hope that you're on 3C. But if the labor market is at 2C, you want to hope that you're at 3A. It's kind of a guessing game. If you're trying to figure out this tug of war. The middle class will have to figure that out based on where they have workers in capitalist and public sector business. The taxes will go to the state treasury after the IMF craziness has happened. But then, if the IMF hasn't messed with anything, all the elections will be figured out. Again, using the cube system featured. Then we get to the scoring phase, which is when we figure out all the accomplishments that we've gotten with the various classes. The passing of bills, the prosperity, and all that. The capitalists move your revenue to your capital, alien based on your capital according to the wealth table. And then if the wealth marker is moved forward, gain 3 for each space it moved. So 100, so there's 5. And then plus another 3, 6, 9, 12, 15. There's 20. Of course, if for some reason we lost capital and we ended up with like 50 revenue, then we go back. We get the 3 for the 50, and that's it. Anyway. Trade unions for working class, fully operational companies for middle, capital for capitalists. The event penalties, any of these that weren't dealt with will cost legitimacy from the state. They'll be discarded. And then the state will score their legitimacy and then adjust the tracks. They'll score their political agenda. And that's it for the round. The new round will happen. And it'll keep going from there until the end of the 5th round. End of the game scoring. The capitalist, the middle class, and the state will gain victory points based on leftover food, leftover luxuries, healthcare, and education. The state will have leftover media influence, be worth things to them as well. Leftover money in the state treasury is worth points to them. Leftover money for the working class will be worth 1 for every 10. For the state, it was 1 for every 30. And finally, depending on the non-state factions, you're trying to accomplish the policies being in a certain space. If you are in the working class, you want things in the socialism column. If you're in the capitalism class, you want to be in the neoliberalism column. Middle class, middle of the road. Highest score will win. And what to do if there's a tie. What to do if there's a tie. The game. Is yes, it's still kind of a new game to me, so I'm still used to it. At the end of the game, any leftover loans you have will cost you 5 victory points as well for the capitalism. Any other players can try to pay off their loans by paying 55. If they can't pay the full amount, then they do so in increments of 5, and there's 1 BP for every 5 they can't afford. But yeah, if there's a tie for points, it's the player among those tied with the most policies. So if capitalists are tied with anyone, they're going to win. But let's say it wasn't the capitalists, it was like the state and the workers. Then it would check. If there's still a tie, the state is among the tied players. The state wins. If not, the player with the most voting cubes is the winner. Did I miss anything? Yeah. Yeah, if there's still a tie, then it's just a shared victory. Other things that I might have missed. I'm trying to think here. The voting. So I think one of the things that happens with the voting stuff is certain cubes get removed, others go back in. Let's see here. Are the elections elections phase? Okay. Before the so something I missed with the elections. Before the elections take place, we check working class population, half, rounded up, is added in cubes to the bag. So a population of 4 would add 2 cubes to the bag. Meanwhile, the capitalist class will add cubes equal to half their companies, so rounded up. So they have 4 companies, they'll add 2 cubes. The middle class gets to do either the capitalist approach or their population approach, whichever works better. And then after pulling the cubes and everything else, after pulling the cubes and figuring out which side wins the vote. They were against, they were for, and the against won. Even with the influence. All the winning side cubes are discarded. And all influence is spent regardless of which side. The losing side goes back to the bag because they are pissed that their policy is not going through. They're going to vote for sure next time. If there's ever no voting cubes left in the bag, we do the refill bag thing twice without giving any influence to the state. Okay. Yeah. And I think that's it. That should be everything. In terms of strategy, you just kind of you just look at what you're trying to do scoring wise and just stick to it. You focus on your prosperity. You focus on the trade unions as the workers. You focus on making money as a capitalist. You focus on, as a state, getting people what they're going to need to be happy. And just hope you can do your best. Why do I like this game? Probably because it's just... I don't really see games like this. We have a modern setting. We have actual policies and business and politics and other just overall kind of craziness. It has a lot of reflecting the real world and all that jazz. It's interesting. There's an expansion for this game that adds a solo play option, and I'm going to get it. And I'm going to do a watch me play a solo for this game. That's probably the last video in that series. That one will not be live streamed. But yeah. I fell in love with this game just playing it once. It's funny because this and also Three Kingdoms were games that I played with somebody, demonstrating them. It was like, I want this game now. Actually, Three Kingdoms took me a little bit longer to really go out of my way for it compared to this one. But it's an interesting approach of there's no direct fighting. You can kind of mess with each other with the cards and with the policies. But it can also, things can go sideways for everybody. Yeah. If you're curious about a game of, real world business and politics and all that stuff, check this game out. HEGEMONY. Go find a copy, play it, love it. Let me know what you think of it. And we'll see you next time. Thanks for watching. This has been Pillar Nexus.